Hi everyone, I'm Mindy Egan for lawnfawn, and in today's video, we are creating what I'm calling a platform pop-up tower. Now, in full disclosure, I did not come up with this design. This is something I have seen numerous people posting, and I really wanted to give it a try. Unfortunately, I don't exactly know the names of the people that have shared this type of project, but I went through and created steps on my own on how to put this together just kind of based off of that idea. So here is a look at what we are going to be creating. I'm keeping mine pretty simple, and essentially what this is two platform pop-ups put together with an insert. So first, let's take a look at the products I'm going to be using. I have the backyard bird feeder for a sentiment, the platform pop-up clouds inserts, platform pop-up picket fence wraparound, the platform pop-up cloud wraparound, tree branches border, the Build a Bird Feeder, and the original platform pop-up. To save a little time, I did a bunch of die cutting off screen, and I did create the Build a Bird Feeder off screen as well. I did this out of lobster and tomato cardstock, and then the birds are from Moonstone and blue Jay cardstock. The pieces that you are going to need to create this design is starting with the original platform pop-up. You are going to need four of those, and I die cut everything out of just plain white cardstock. So essentially, we're creating two individual platform pop-ups, and then we're going to connect them with an insert piece in the back. So you need four of the original platform pop-ups. You are going to need six of those T-shaped pieces, so three for each platform pop-up. Then for my bottom platform pop-up, I have three grass inserts, which is from the original. And then I also have the picket fence wraparound. And I also have that additional piece that's going to go on top of our fence for adding that additional detail. And then I have the platform pop-up cloud wraparound, which is actually going to be the top of my trees. I'm going to start by coloring my pieces. And to do this, I have my grass inserts. I'm just using a blending brush and starting with a celery stick ink to add some light green color to them. Now, of course, you can also start with colored cardstock if you want to skip any of the blending. For the cloud wraparound, which is actually going to be the top of my trees, I am using celery stick ink on one side, and then I'm going to come in on the other side with jalapeno. Now, I'm not going to focus too much on the coloring or the ink blending. I will say when I repeat something like the grass, I just repeated the color on each of those inserts because I really wanted to focus on the construction of this platform pop up. Then I'm going to take each of those main platform bases and I masked off the tab on one end and then right along the score line on the other side just to add green to those centerpieces. I didn't need ink on the rest of that, and I wasn't sure if I'd be adding adhesive or anything to that. And adhesive it doesn't like to stick to wet ink. So I just masked that off and did some really quick ink blending there. I'm also going to do it to the picket fence. So again, I used some Post-it tape. I just masked off the line right below the fence line and added some of that celery stick ink. Then I have the tree branches border. I honestly wasn't sure how I was going to be using this, but I did die cut it from white cardstock and I am going to color it with Olo markers. I started with the branches. I didn't like that shade of brown that I started with, so I'm coming back in with a darker shade of brown to fill that in. And then I'm going to color the individual leaves that I die cut from the white cardstock as well. I started with a light green ink and then I added a little bit of shading to one side using a darker shade. On the individual leaves, there is a larger leaf and a smaller leaf, and I die cut each of those twice so I'd have enough leaves to go across my border. I'm just adding a dot of liquid glue, picking up the leaf with my embellishment tool, and then adding that over the top. Then I'm going to jump into the platform pop-up. So I'm grabbing one of them and I'm just going to start folding along all of those scored lines. I'm going to repeat all of these steps for the other three. So it's going to be the same steps, just folding along that score line that the die provided and reinforcing that fold with a bone folder. In preparation for this, I did create one off screen just out of all plain white cardstock to get an idea of how it was going to all come together. So, this is technically my second one, but it is definitely not without mistakes, which you will see throughout the video. Now I'm going to take the 1/4 inch double-sided tape and I'm going to add a little piece on that side tab and another piece on our top tab. And I'll do that for the other three bases as well. We have our 6 T shapes. So 2 of them I put off on the side because we are going to be trimming those down a little bit. The other 4, I'm going to add that same 1/4 inch double-sided tape to the bottom tab. It's hard to see on screen, but there is a score line there. And I added that 1/4 inch double-sided tape below that score line. Now the other 2 I set off on the side, I'm actually going to trim along that score line. Then I'm going to take my grass inserts. I flip them over so it's on the back side. And this time I am using the 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape. And I will add that to the very bottom of my grass inserts. So now everything that we're doing so far is just like if you were creating an individual platform pop-up. Now, to create the actual platform pop-up itself, I'm taking one of those T pieces I folded along the score line. I'm flipping that over so that the piece or the tab that has that double-sided tape is facing down. I'm going to thread that through the insert. I'm going to make sure that that T piece is straight and flush with my platform pop-up. I can remove the backing of the double-sided tape and fold that down. Then I can push that up, remove the backing on that top tab, fold the tab over and adhere it to the back of that platform pop-up. I'm going to repeat these steps for the other 3 panels that I created. Next, we're going to take one of the T shapes where we cut that tab off, and I'm going to add a double-sided tape to one side of that. I'm going to take one of my other halves of my platform pop-up, add a double-sided tape to that. Then I'm going to take that T-shaped piece, remove the backing of the double-sided tape, flip that over and attach that to the center piece of the one half. So it's going to line up flush with that score line that we created. I can then butt these two next to each other. So again, removing the backing of the double-sided tape from that side tab. And I started adding a little bit of liquid glue. I just really liked the reassurance of having the double-sided tape and the liquid glue because I know lawnfawn's liquid glue is amazing and holds really well. So I had attached those 2 panels together to create one long strip, and then I can start attaching my grass inserts. So right now I'm working on the bottom portion. I removed the double-sided tape from those, also adding the liquid glue. Now here I needed to keep in mind how my box or the platform pop-up is going to look facing forward. So I did kind of fold that one side over just so I can make sure to have the grass all facing that same direction. So then once again, I can remove the backing of that double-sided tape. I am going to add a little bit of the liquid glue and I'm going to fold this over so that those bases meet. Once these have lined up, I can then take that end tab, I can remove that backing, fold that over and secure that down. So we have just created the bottom portion of our platform pop-up tower. I'm going to repeat those same steps for the top portion, but you're going to see that I did not end up liking it and I'm going to have to fix it. You'll see it here in just a moment, but I repeated the same steps for the top portion. I'm taking the cloud wraparound and I am going to trim off the tab. Now you could do die cut 2 of these to go all the way around the top, but I just really wanted to focus on the front portion of it. And I did the same thing with the picket fence wraparound. I trimmed the tabs off of both of those. So here is where I'm at right now. I love that wraparound over the top, but you can see there my inserts. I was really not happy with them for the inserts for the top portion, which I'm envisioning to be like the tree branches hanging down. I had used, I think it was like a cloud border that I trimmed down because I wanted it to be wider than the cloud inserts. It ends up that I didn't like them. They were too wide. They just looked really kind of odd. So you're going to see in a little bit where I totally cut them off and redo it. But right now I am adding the wraparound. So I did put the double-sided tape in the panels. There's 3 panels there from the score lines or that the score lines created. I also added the liquid glue and then I added my wraparound to the top of that. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom that's going to have my grass. So adding the double-sided tape to those 3 panels, adding the liquid glue, and then taking my picket fence wrap around and adding that over the top. There is also that additional strip that I die cut from white cardstock, and I'm going to place that over my fence just using the lawn fawn glue tube. So I like to use this as kind of a summary point to take a look at how everything is coming together, which I was really happy with. It's essentially two platform pop ups that are just going to be connected at some point. So, like I said, I didn't end up liking those cloud inserts, but we're setting them off on the side for right now. And I'm going to work on the background. I am using 110-pound white cardstock to create the background because I really wanted it to be pretty sturdy. I trimmed that to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now, height may vary depending on your project. This is the size that I chose to do, and it worked really well. And I just added the stratus cloud stencil over the background, just adding merman ink really lightly. I didn't want to get carried away. I'm keeping everything fairly simple. Now, to get all of my score lines to match up perfectly, I took my cloud background, I placed it onto my scoreboard, and then I took the top portion for my platform pop up and I'm lining it up over the top. So I am using these score lines on the platform pop up wraparound as a guide on where to place my score lines. And I believe what it comes out to is 1 1/2 and 3 7/8 of an inch. I will bring this closer up to the screen so that you can see it here, but those matched up perfectly with the base. So now I know that everything, when I fold it up, is going to match up with the top and the bottom piece. Now that my score lines are in place, I am just going to fold along those lines and reinforce the fold with a bone folder. Now, this next part was probably the hardest part out of the whole entire process. I haven't quite figured out an easy way to do it, but it's going to be attaching this panel to the platform pop ups. I'm starting with adding the 1/8 of an inch double sided tape to the bottom, I think I started out with. Just a really thin strip of that going in between the score lines. I didn't want to have the double-sided tape on the score lines. So I have it for each panel, remove the backing, and then I'm adding the liquid glue. Then I'm going to take it and I'm lining it up with the back of my platform pop-up. So I'm starting with the base piece. This has got the picket fence and the grass. I'm lining that up within that. So I'm kind of pushing it down until it meets the inserts that we had created. Like I said, this kind of takes a little maneuvering. Once I got it lined up, I'm holding it down for a minute or two to make sure that it is secure. So I think that worked out pretty well. There may be an easier way to do that, but that's just what worked for me right now. And the more I play with it, the more I'm sure that I'll figure out some tricks that might be a little easier. So I'm going to repeat those steps for the top portion. Again, I added that 1/8 of an inch double sided tape to the very top, added the liquid glue, and then I'm tucking that up into the top platform pop up inserts. This one, again, I'm going to hold down, or you can just place something heavy on it and let it sit for a minute. So that turned out really cute. I was pretty excited, but again, not really happy with those bigger inserts. So I took my scissors, I completely chopped them off, and then I went back in and actually did the cloud inserts. So these are the real cloud inserts. The ones I used earlier were actually from the Cloud Border die, which means they're kind of poofier, they were bigger. These are the actual cloud inserts. So they just fit better inside of the platform pop up because that's what it was meant to do. So I just went through, added that double sided tape to the back along with some liquid glue, and then placing that over the top of where I kind of chopped off the other ones. And these worked out just so much better. You don't see a ton of them, but if you look at this from the side at different angles, you can notice a difference. So I'm going to go through, finish up adding the last of them. Sorry when my head pops in the way. Sometimes I just really had to get in there and see how it was looking. So after I got that done, because I'm calling them cloud inserts, but it's actually to me like a poofy tree that's hanging down. Now I'm taking the tree branches border that I had created and I'm trimming a bunch of it off. So it's going to be kind of hanging down from the tree, just kind of wherever you want to place them. And I thought it was a really fun look to have some of the brown branches actually sticking out. I think it gave it more of that tree feeling. And of course, you can really just go to town decorating these. I have seen some pretty elaborate ones that are just amazing. But starting out, this was a really good one to start out with. It kind of introduced me to the concept and filling in a scene. And plus, it was just a lot of fun. And even my husband was super impressed. Now I'm taking my bird feeder. So I do have a piece of cardstock. It's actually two strings of cardstock layered together just for that stability. I'm adding liquid glue to the back of it, and then I'm going to add it to the middle insert from the tree top. Afterwards, I do also add some glue to the leaves that are kind of hidden behind the bird feeder, and that's going to help attach it and keep it stable. I hadn't really figured out how to make it stay kind of propped out when it's laying down, but this is something that is meant to be displayed. Now, all I have left is a sentiment. Again, I'm keeping it super simple. I am using this sentiment off of the backyard bird feeder. I just have this rectangle die with a little bit of stitching on it. I believe this came from the original platform pop up, and I'm stamping my sentiment in the black licorice ink. I'm going to add tape runner to the back, and I'm placing that on the front of my platform pop up. And there are so many ways that we could fill in this scene. I could have added squirrels to the bottom. I could even have brought in some more clouds, maybe using some acetate. I could have added birds to the top of the tree. Just so many more things that could be added to this. But when starting out, just a clean and simple approach is really helpful. So now I can use this as a guide for future projects. Now you can see this does flatten down, but to be honest, I have no idea what kind of envelope you would put this in. This is a gift that I would probably hand deliver to somebody, but it is so much fun to create with and it creates the most adorable scene. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to the people that have been creating these amazing boxes. They have been a true inspiration. Thank you all so much for joining me.